What's up guys, James here from BootWizard Boot Reviews, and straight off the bat, yes, if I sound a bit weird, it's because I'm sick, but the wizarding must continue, the boot reviews must continue, and therefore today we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the Adidas X 19.3 in the Laceless model. So Adidas have some pretty shocking history, especially in recent times, with their, well, laceless models in some cases, but generally with their takedowns. So if you take the fact that I don't think Adidas takedowns are much good, you take the fact that I don't think Adidas laceless boots are as good as their laced counterparts, you may be surprised to learn that I think this is probably the best laceless takedown model available on the market right now. So today we're going to take a look at what makes up this boot. Is it special? What the touch and feel is like? What the fit and comfort is like? And most importantly of all, are these worth your money should you go out and buy them? So for all of that, stick around. Remember to hit a like on this video and get subscribed if you haven't already. And let's jump into the Adidas X 19.3 Laceless. So kicking off with the upper on these, this is where I was kind of taken aback by these boots and where I was like, wow, Adidas have done a really good job here. So basically what we've got here is a multi-mesh upper. Now the mesh that's making up the main blue area of the boot here is surprisingly soft and reasonably flexible, especially for an Adidas takedown boot. It even has a little bit of texturing to it, which is somewhat reminiscent of what you're going to get on that top end X19 Plus. Now, they feel completely different on the ball. This is a very thin barefoot synthetic material, and this definitely has a more padded sensation on the ball. It's not as thin, it's a mesh, not synthetic, and it's definitely not as premium. But for the money that you pay for these, the upper is quite nice, the texture is quite nice, and the touch on the ball, you don't have much to complain about. Although it is a speed boot, it could be more barefoot, but it's a takedown, and I don't think there's much wrong with it. The laceless system is made up with this white piece of mesh here. Now, all that they've done here is taken the base setup for the laced version, taken the laces out, and added this white section, which is just a piece of mesh which has a plastic backing to it, which is what gives it the structure. Now, this has the same problem that all laceless boots have. It is not adjustable, you can't customize it to your feet, so therefore it lacks in responsiveness, it lacks in lockdown especially. Now, if you are really into the idea of a laceless boot and you want the most recent Adidas colorway, but you don't have the money for that top end, nearly €300 boot, this could be something that you are considering, and it's not that bad. Like, it's not, especially compared to some previous Adidas takedown models. And if you compare this to the Predator 20.3 Laceless or the 19.3 Laceless, I think this is a far better option. But it's still a laceless boot, it still has those laceless problems, and this is not a cleverly engineered knit material that's going to try and give you stretch and yet keep you locked in. This is simply a piece of mesh with a stiff plastic backing. It does a job, but it's not that impressive. So the upper probably is the best thing about this boot. It's definitely more premium than we've come to expect. The laceless system isn't that bad, especially for a takedown model. And straight out of the gate, I do think that this offers the best takedown laceless experience in the upper from any Adidas takedown boot. But because it is identical to that laced variation just with the laces removed and this plastic backed mesh for the laceless system, you can't beat a customizable lacing system. So unless you are dying for laceless boots, upper perspective, pick up the laced variation of this.
So let's take a look at the weight. This is obviously a speed boot, so we expect it to be light, but it is an Adidas 0.3 takedown model, so we'd expect it to be a little heavier. We are, of course, just going to throw the X19 Plus on the scale. It's 193 grams. It's a very unfair comparison, especially when you consider this is nearly 300 euros and this is less than 100. So throwing this one on the scale, we're coming in at 238 grams, which for a speed boot you would consider quite heavy, but for a 0.3 takedown model, it's not bad at all, and it's about the same weight as what you're going to get from the laced variant as well. So for the money you pay, you can't really complain.
Okay, so traction. This looks a lot like the speed frame that you're going to get on that top end 19 Plus, but it is not. In almost any way, you do still get exactly the same stud pattern and stud shape, which is a good thing. It's probably Adidas's most aggressive and potentially best stud pattern and stud shape that they have, with these kind of chevron shaped studs in the forefoot and then these conical style studs in the heel. So the difference comes in the material the sole plate is made out of itself, and of course it doesn't have that external heel counter, it is a built-in internal. The material that they have made this sole plate out of is definitely cheaper, it's definitely heavier, and it's definitely a bit stiffer overall compared to what you're going to get from those higher end models. But you're also paying way less than half the price for this. So considering the price again, this isn't too bad. It's not overly stiff in the forefoot, which is a recurring theme, a recurring issue you get with Adidas takedowns sometimes, that the sole plate is simply just one stiff and solid board all the way through, and it feels pretty terrible. In this case though, you do get a reasonable amount of stiffness through the mid and the heel, and then in the forefoot you get a nice amount of bend. It's not the snappiest forefoot you're ever going to come across in the world, but it's certainly not overly stiff, and I think it does a good job. Again, for the money, there's not a lot to complain about here. It's not exceptional, but you're paying a takedown price, you get takedown features.
This is obviously the hardwired pack colorway of these boots, and honestly I think they've done a really good job with the colorway, with that little bit of texturing that's in it, just the white and blue in general. I think overall, even when compared to that X19 Plus, it's a good looking football boot, especially for a 0.3 takedown model. I have no problems with this at all. Even the sole plate, which looks like the sprint frame but is not, is still good looking, even though they've just gone for grey instead of that shiny metallic, which you're never going to get on a takedown anyway. But overall, pink accents with white and blue. I think this whole pack was great, and I think this particular boot is no exception.
So value for money. These come in at 90 euros, which is a bit expensive, I think, for a boot of this standard, of this class. And then we have to take into consideration that you can get the 19.3 laced for 10 euros cheaper, and there's not really any question about this. The 19.3 laced is a better football boot. It gives you everything that this gives you, plus the laces, so you get adjustable, customizable fit, which means the boot will fit you better, you'll get better lockdown, and you get better responsiveness. So, if nothing else, save yourself 10 euros and pick up the laced variation. Because with that said, I don't think it's that simple either, because you can go and look at picking up a Vapor 13 Academy, also for 10 euros less than this laceless version. And from a personal point of view, I do think that the Vapor Takedown is better than the X Takedown, but even more importantly than that, you can now pick up on sale these. So this is a pair of Nike Mercurial Vapor 13 Pros that I picked up from a Nike outlet for 40 British pounds. That is cheaper than the laced and the laceless X19.3 models, and the Vapor 13 Academy in a new colorway. This is a really high quality boot. This is a boot that I highly recommend as a takedown model. It was my takedown model of the year last year, and you can now pick it up from outlets. You can also pick it up from big stores like ProDirect, like Unisport, Football Emotion, Soccer.com. They're all selling these boots at takedown prices in older colorways, and you can pick it up for basically the same price as those 0.3X models. So firstly, I have to say, I found these boots really difficult to get on. The height of the boot with that claw fit opening makes it more difficult, and then the fact that you've just got a plastic backing on top of mesh gives very little stretch in that mesh laceless area, which makes it even more difficult to get on. I overall found this very difficult to get on, and then once it is on, it's also not the widest boot. So if you do have wide feet, I don't really recommend this for you. One, because it's going to be very hard to get on, and two, because it's not the widest fit anyway. Mildly wide feet, you will be fine. In terms of length, I've gone for my standard UK 8 here, and that's worked out really well. The sizing in this X 19.3 Laceless seems to be really good, so I have no complaints. Go true to size is my recommendation. I also find this to be a very comfortable boot. There's sufficient padding in the heel liner, there's sufficient padding in the boot liner, and overall it's a really comfortable boot. I do have one pretty major gripe though, and it's a gripe that is just an Adidas follow-on. This is a mistake that they keep making and seem to refuse to fix, and it is the fact that the heel counter, the way it's been designed, feels like it is just holding on to the very bottom of your heel. At any moment, your foot could slip out of the boot. Now, admittedly, that isn't happening. It's not going to happen, but the sensation is one that I really do not enjoy. And it's a running theme across many Adidas takedown models, and it's one that they need to fix as soon as possible. So I can definitively say that I think this is the best laceless Adidas takedown model on the market right now. But I still don't recommend it as the overall best takedown model to go for, especially when the laced version's available and also things like this are available at such low prices. But if you're dying to try laceless and you're on a budget, this probably is the best option to go for, especially if you pick it up in an older colorway and save yourself a few extra euros. So drop down in the comments what you think of this X 19.3 Laceless. Are you rocking them on pitch at the moment? Remember to hit the like button for this video. It shows huge support for the channel, and if you're not already, get subscribed. That's everything from BootWizard here today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have a good one, and we'll see you soon.